Hi, you are listening to Creatix Culture. I am your host, SaraWolf. Today we have Eden Koz, and I'm excited about this one because I love doing podcast swapping. And I was just on her podcast a few weeks ago. I'll put the link in the comments. And it was just really a beautiful, her finding me through the internet and us connecting and having such a really deep spiritual connection. So I was like, hey, why don't you come over here? And I would love to hear your story and bring you on to my show. So I'm really excited that you're here today. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Eden. She is going on 25 years as a psychological empath, intuitive medium, meditation master, light worker, starseed, and dimensional energy healer, as well as great awakening. What is that word?
Pontificator.
I don't even think I've read that word in my whole life.
Means
Girl,
I talk
I read
about it
that
a
earlier
lot.
and I didn't even see that you wrote some word in there that I needed to like. What does pontificator mean?
That means I talk about it. I pontificate about it. I share about it. I can't shut up about it. All those things.
I mean, oh, my ring light keeps going out. Sorry, guys. When we're in it, when we are called to it, when it is our mission to, bring it to the stage and keep the narrative of that going and not letting it just like fall off or get buried under the craziness. Yeah, we need to stay on top of that for sure. So I'm glad that you've been answering the call to that. She is almost finished with her first book, The Wisdom of Just Being, Why and How to Be Calm in These Chaotic Times. I think we need that book like last week. So
Thank you. That'll motivate me. Thank you.
yeah. She is the producer and host of her podcast since January of 2022, Just Be Spiritual Boom, where she recently became an anchor on the Grassroots Warrior Network channel on Rumble. That's really exciting. I love that. And we're going to go into in 2017, she incurred stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis that brought her a near-death experience in addition all to 2 years of major recovery and rejuvenation. So I was just talking to her before we jumped on here that I'm love NDEs, and I really am excited to hear your story about that. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Sarah. And again, it was so lovely to have you on my show. That just feels really good.
It does feel really good. And then what I love is that after we wrap the show, you told me that one of my dear friends that I've known for a few years now through the spiritual community, and she came on here, Shiloh, that you had randomly just reached out to her from a different avenue and and then it saw that we were connected, and it's just like so much fun to have like worlds collide or like that.
Yes.
All of us that are a part of this mission, because we are, and that we're constantly, and I feel like this is even more so since the beginning of the pandemic, that we're like just magnets coming together. Like, oh, you're part of it. You're part of it. You're part. Okay. Yep. We're building. Like we're now like we were all like dispersed across the earth, right? And just working alone in our own things or in really tiny small groups. And then now it's like we're being so connected everywhere. It's like the circuits have turned on.
Yeah. And Shiloh, essentially one of my clients sent a meditation that she was doing, and I happened to have, it was that day or the next day, and I happened to have time. So I wasn't in a session or anything. I was like, oh, I'm going to join that. And then it was great. So I reached out to her on Instagram. And then that's when I saw that you two guys were connected, and y'all didn't even live in the same state right now. I don't think so.
No,
yeah. It's so,
yeah.
Oh, you never have. Yeah. It's just so juicy. And I think she's going to be on in like a month or whatever, but yeah, just this, what I feel too, when the pandemic first started, it was just to really kind of at least for me, kind of isolate yourself, which was not fun, because all relationships in my life changed. Yet now I had to go through that period to almost like shed the old vibrations, the things that weren't serving you, so you can start moving into these new connections. And one of my things, I started this podcast because I was a member of a constitutional group here. And it was so interesting that that group was dissolved through basically narcissism, like what we were seeing on a collective level in this world. So it's like, okay, what can I do where I can just do it myself and have no one else come and say, you're doing it wrong, you need to do it this way, that I can just do. I never thought I'd be doing a podcast, or, but there's a part of me that I just couldn't keep quiet. And it has allowed me, I'm get really excited for a minute, to meet people all over the world who, and because my show is about, first and foremost, the Great Awakening, and then spiritually what you do in your work to contribute to that. Yet it has really opened the door to me connecting to you and people I would have not connected to, because again, there's a small community here where I am, but this allows me to go, whoa, there is a big community out there, and I am going to bring them to me, and then you're going to bring me to you. It's just so, and you're right. It's picking up speed, which is so great, because again, at first it was like, I don't know about you. Oh, I'm all alone here.
Yeah.
No one, everybody thinks I'm crazy. Everybody thinks, I'm wackadoodle. And now there are a whole bunch of us that are wackadoodle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're wackadoodling all over together.
Wackadoodling all over, because we're not wackadoodle either.
Right.
That's what's so great.
I always say if there's like at least one other person that's going through what you're going through or feeling what you're feeling, then you're not crazy, or it's not, you know what I mean? Like there's not something wrong with you. There's something bigger at play. And I was actually just having a long conversation with a girlfriend this morning about all that. We seem to have parallel things that was happening. And she's like, I'm going through this really rough time. And I'm like, I'm kind of having like the same experience with you vibrationally. So that tells me there's something bigger at play. If we're walking, yes, our story like might actually be slightly different, but the fundamentals of what we're both saying is the same in the same timeline.
Got it.
So that means there's something bigger at play. And like, there's comfort in that. And there's, then it's like, okay. And yeah, I mean, I bet like where you are with the small community, it just feels like, well, is it just us out in the world? You know what I mean? Like there's no one else that feels like this. And what's happening, I feel like as people are waking up, but also as we're finding each other, because there's new people that are like, wait, now they're questioning the narrative, right? But then there's us that have been, or, and it's like, okay, oh, thank God. At least I know you're over there and you get it. You know what I mean? Like I can like, yeah, because it was very lonely for a really long time walking around where, I mean, LA is a pretty big spiritual place. We have a lot of people here that are pretty in tune, but also it felt like they weren't on a certain level. And still felt lonely.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of spiritual people within my community that canceled me. Again, there's this almost like this division of spirituality where you are spiritual and you're connected, but then there's this great awakening piece that calls into question everything around you. And a lot of people they don't know about that yet, or again, they're still stuck. And I admittedly, until the pandemic happened, that was the thing that, because I had always been spiritual. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. That was the thing that finally allowed me to see. And I asked my husband for a divorce 3 weeks before lockdowns happened too. So let me just share that, knowing that you're divorced as well. So I had at that point 2 kids that were at home. He worked, he traveled. So he was not expecting it from me. So suddenly we're all at home, and that was a nugget. And that's when I started truly seeing everything. And he and I, it was perfect because on totally different sides of the fence. He's vaccinated. I'm not. Bigger picture. So we would not have lasted through that, regardless of me asking for a divorce beforehand. But because it allowed me, because he also never understood my spiritual work. So this really showed how different we are and how perfect this was. because I could suddenly go to my groups and suddenly I have, Sarah, are you familiar with the civil flag?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm going to bring this up for a second. So, America apparently has two flags. And I love this because I saw it posted on the Planetary Activation Organization too, so that it wasn't just a constitutional spot or whatever. So, galactic, I'm like, yes. So, the United States essentially has two flags. So, what you're used to seeing, Old Glory, which is a military flag,
Mm-hmm.
and then the civil flag, which most people don't know about. It looks like our typical flag, but the colors are just shifted a little bit. I got it and put it outside my house. And I shot a little message to my neighbor saying, hey, I'm going to put this flag up just so you know the purpose of it. So, because I'm sure there's lots of dialogue out there that if anyone posts this flag, they're a terrorist and do not trust them or whatever. So I
Yeah.
just said, hey, here's a link to it. The flag basically implies peace. So our other one is military. This is peace. This also talks about us being sovereign and liberty. So here, I'm going to put it out in front of my house. I did have one neighbor question me, not so nicely, but smoothed all of that out. So even when I put it up, I mean, there's just this part that goes, oh my gosh, here we go, doing something different that people
Yeah.
aren't going to understand. And I remember the first day I put it out, I kind of braced myself, got that one not so nice text from a neighbor. And since then, it's been fine. There you go.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you never know, or you're gonna say something, or like especially living in LA in an apartment during the pandemic, and I was like, I can't never even say that like seriously, or like just even calling it a pandemic. I'm like, "Ugh." like like it's all just so stupid. But like I was like one of maybe three people on the block or in the building that even like saw through it. Like, luckily we had some birds of a feather here, but then I'm
Ooh.
surrounded by this like really deep fear and really deep, like, you gotta, and it's like, it was constantly like bracing yourself, and everyone knew like pretty much where I stood. So it was like, are you gonna go get and I'm like, why would I do that? And it's like, at first they got mad, or I know they looked at me like crazy. But then as things have started unfolding, there's been this like new respect for me from people.
Oh my gosh, isn't that so great? And you basically, even at the time where it was really hard to speak your mind, you did it.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't
Okay.
fall, like, I couldn't even like, sometimes I would put on a mask just because I'm like, if I don't today, I'm gonna like get kicked out of somewhere or get the cops called on me, because it like, I'm that, just like, if anyone says one thing to me, like, I'm gonna snap.
Mhm.
But most of the time I didn't. Like, sometimes like I
Me too.
literally did just for my own peace, because this
Mhm.
isn't gonna end well for everybody, because I'm at my edge. But I walked around everywhere, down the street
Yep.
with my dog every single day. For how long? And I even had a neighbor once come up from the boulevard and from Ventura, because it's busy. And he's like, and we're outside, I'm walking my dog, and
Oh
he's
my
like,
gosh.
oh, where's your mask? I go, what are you talking about? He's like, you're gonna go down to the boulevard without your mask? We're outside. What do you think is gonna happen down on the boulevard? Okay, so there's some people down there? Like, what do you mean?
Oh
The big
man.
bad boulevard? Like, I'm safe up here, but I'm definitely not safe just a few feet down the street. Like, what? Where's the logic? Or like, I loved in Trader Joe's. I live above Trader Joe's. Do you guys have Trader Joe's?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So they have you wait in line, outside of the grocery store for like how the fuck long, and however long the line is, right? And I can't handle lines, so that's already getting me,
Oh,
that's why sometimes I just couldn't, like, I'm already like heightened, like, I just, whatever. And then you go in and it doesn't make any sense, so it's like, stand here, and then and then they have like the checkout lines are like, you know all regulated. But then they have people, this is my favorite, lined up in a line, but it wrapped around the store. So if you're a normal shopper and let's say you need to grab some steak, have to reach through the people.
It's so okay. This reminds me. So I'm in Ohio. I'm not from Ohio, but
Uh,
during all of it, so there was this one shopping plaza to go to. There was an ice cream store. There's this place called the Winking Lizard. So when you're sitting down at a table, you don't have to have your mask on. So there are people waiting in line with their masks on. There are people at this ice cream store standing 6 feet apart from each other, people with masks on. And I was just looking at it going, thinking to myself and wanting to shout out, do y'all know how ridiculous this is?
yeah.
It yeah, if you're standing there, but you're standing by people who are at a table, but they don't have their masks on, that somehow you're going to be okay. It's just, and then one time at a grocery store, so I didn't wear a mask either. So I went up to check out and she's like, you have to put on your mask to check out. And I looked at her, I'm like, okay. I put it on, checked me out. And as soon as we were done, I took it off.
Took it off. Yeah, I would do
Like
shit
there was
like
a part
that
of it
too.
going, that is so ridiculous. But all right. All right. I would like my groceries. So
I mean, you know,
what were you thinking?
like it's just like I don't think a lot of people questioned the logic or saw that it didn't make any sense.
Right.
And I did from day one. And I would tell people, I go, if this made sense, I would follow the guidelines.
Ooh.
But it doesn't make sense. So therefore, I cannot follow the guidelines because it's all contradictory. It all doesn't make any sense. If you made this make sense, I would do my dues as a citizen. But it doesn't. So I'm not going to. I was at this steakhouse meeting a friend I hadn't seen in a long time, and it was still masky time, and I'm just done again at this point, you know, like I just don't fucking care. And same thing, I'm walking into the restaurant, I see him at the bar, and I'm walking through these high top tables, right? This is like a high-end restaurant. And all these people at the high top tables are just as high sitting as me walking. And they don't have to have a mask on because they've sat down and they're eating, but they're just as high as me. And I walk through the restaurant, and now I'm not in a day where I'll like claw your face off. So like I'm in my rebelling, like it's okay if you try to do whatever because I'm like, you know, I'm not super heightened. And the guy tried to stop me and be like, hey, if you're walking through here, you need to put on your mask. And I just walked right by him, and I was like, I didn't even say anything. I just walked and went and sat down with my friend, and I was like, how does that make any sense? They're the same height as me. That like, if you gave me logic, I could follow suit, but you're not giving me logic. And it's annoying me that you all aren't thinking logically about what you're being told. It's maddening.
Oh, I shoot. And being in California, again, being in Ohio, much freer than you guys. Like, I think you're masking. Yeah.
Especially when you live like in Studio City, was like Fearville too. I mean, there's still people. There's a guy that still walks the streets every single day with his mask on still. Every day. An older man outside. No one's around.
I've still got clients, well, family that will not leave the house even to this day. Like so much, the fear has worked on them where it is affecting them so intensely now.
Wow. That's really sad.
Yeah.
But well, I mean,
that was the intent.
Yeah. And I just like, I don't know if we talked about this on your show, but like Spirit said to me one day, because I'm like, why are these people waking up? Oh my God, like we gotta wake up everybody. And then Spirit's like, who the fuck are you to decide what somebody's path is and when they're gonna wake up? Who are you? It's not up to you. It's up to their path. And if their path said that they chose in this life to stay sleeping, and that's their role in it, and that's where they're in their evolution, you gotta let them.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about that, but that completely, like when I started the show too, my goal isn't to wake you up. My goal is to just give information, and those who are drawn to the broadcast will be drawn to it. But yeah, also releasing that too, because it is upsetting initially. Like, why don't people see this? Why am I the only one? It's it's challenging. And all of this has been challenging. And to watch what's going on in the world and seeing, it's like seeing the pain and the horribleness of it, yet being in it, yet not of it. Like that's challenging also. And to continue this high vibe. And as you do this, things are good. So, and then people go, well, how can things be good for you when there's so much crap happening on in the world? Things are good. They are good. And that's who I'm going to be and who I'm, that's me, that's you. And it's important right now that we be that. Yeah.
And I've been telling a lot of people that are on like even the awakening or spiritual end, like really heavy in it, that get stuck in timelines or get stuck in like predictions and like, like, oh, but this is gonna, everyone's sitting. I'm like, let's unplug from that. Let's unplug from that and like go back to the teaching. Like, yes, I know what's going on in the world. I'm very well versed at this time. I had over a year, however long we were locked down, to do some really deep, like I put myself through college basically, and all the information that I gathered and looked through and faced and digested. Okay, I'm very well versed in what's happening in the world. The underbelly of it, like, is how sick and twisted the rabbit hole actually goes. I get it. The only thing that I can do is keep sharing information, but then working on myself, right? It's like, if you want to, like, just the classic saying, you be the change you want to see in the world. That's the only thing that I have control over. I don't have control over you. I don't have control over you. Even with the timelines, even with the things going out, all I have control over is to project my highest timeline, is to keep walking towards what I want to see the world to be and living in that. That's all I have control over. And so I'm going to stick with that, because we can shift it at any moment, even as just us two coming together and putting our thought process together. If it's against the whole timeline, we can start shifting it towards where we want to go. So I don't have to worry about this doom and gloom anymore. All I have to worry about is keeping myself and working through my own stuff and keeping myself forward thinking, right?
Yes. And from what I understand too, there will be a lot of people, I'm gonna look out for just a second, there are going to be faced with that doom and gloom because on some level they choose it. So for those of us who see outside of that, we're not going to have to go through that because we also understand it and have decided through free will that we're not going to be a part of that. So there is going to be this split soon, and I maybe it's already happening on some level, that there are going to be certain people that you might not even come into contact with anymore. It's almost like they've been erased off the earth. And it's exciting, but also knowing that everybody will get to the higher level point at some point. So it's not like, oh, I'm leaving this person behind. Or no, it's just going to take, they're going to get there. It's just going to take a while to catch up, and that's all okay. So on some sense, also being neutral with this too, with the good stuff, and just being cool with it all.
Yeah. And some days it's easier said than done, but like, like,
yeah, amen.
We're navigating through it, like, I listened to someone's energy update the other day. Like I said, I don't really love timeline things or whatever, but it's someone, Elizabeth April, put out like a energy of 2024.
Like her.
Yeah. And I was like, I was guided, not when she first put it out, I was guided to listen to it like 2 days ago. And I was like, oh, okay, I see why this, like, now is like when I should listen to this and not when she first put it out like a week ago. And because she was really talking about like what I'm kind of seeing, what's been happening is like 2024, especially right now, is like, those of us that are in a higher vibration, anything still that's like that we're still working out, that we're still cleaning up shadow wise or unconscious wise, is going to continue to really come to the surface right now, to really make sure that it's like fully cleaned up. The deeper layers are cleaned up because of the split in consciousness. or vibration or whatever you want to call it. And for those of you listening that don't really know what we're talking about, it's basically like what Eden was saying. It's not that like this whole group of people are going to die, or like half the people you know are just going to like disappear. It's in vibration and vibrational matches is like, as you raise your vibration, it's why your marriage ended, right? Like the vibration was no longer in vibration and wasn't going in the same direction of vibration. So by the laws of the universe, they become like parallel to each other and they don't cross. They just like are two ships in the night, basically. So if you're raising your vibration and this group is staying down here, by the laws of the universe, it's a natural split. It doesn't mean that people are going to be leaving Earth. I mean, some people might, decide to cross over during that time because they can't handle it. But it's just meaning that if you ran into this person walking down the street every day, now it will energetically work out that you don't even walk by each other at the same time anymore, is the best I can describe it, right? Because your vibration is, you're like two magnets propelling each other. So it's going to be kind of like seamless in a way like that. Like you might even life take off and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to Judy in like 6 months. Like Judy and I talked every day. Like, where's Judy?
Where's Judy? Oh my gosh.
Where's Judy?
Like being on a different dimension, kind of, or a different plane too. Because Sarah, I don't know about you, but I connect to beyond the veil and people that have passed over or whatever, and knowing that that we're all here, yet we just can't, like most people can't see them. So that's kind of how I imagine this to be as well, that we're just on, again, different planes, different dimensions, different vibrations. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I want to travel into your NDE because I have a couple questions for you. This was 2017, correct?
Yes.
And you've been tapped into your gifts for about 25 years, longer, whole life?
Since I started in my late 20s. So I had already been doing this work, was very spiritual at the time, had a great connection to God, source. So I was in my 40s, my later 40s, and my kids at that point, like 12 and 7 years old. I have both girls. Yeah. So I was already spiritually good, if you want to call it that. So it wasn't this experience where with this health challenge that came, and I'll stop for a minute so you can ask another question. It wasn't, oh my gosh, you need to alter your lifestyle. You need to alter what you eat. I mean, I was on it. I had at that point too, I had an actual meditation studio, had people working for me. Okay, this is Akron, Ohio, which, wow. I mean, no one does that. So I was in the middle of this. That was going great. Everything was just going great. And then it all came crashing down, it was all beautiful within a week, literally within a week, like me being fine and great. And then, should I describe that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember, on Monday, I'll start with that. We had a beautiful session. I had someone who did Reiki with me, and we went to the school, again, in Akron, Ohio, and we were doing stuff for the teachers. I mean, it's amazing. And I just feeling a little off-centered. Then I was going to be teaching a group class Wednesday and Thursday, and I do not cancel classes. And I suddenly went from feeling dizzy on that Monday to, by Friday, could not get out of bed, did not want to get out of bed. It was almost, so my husband on that Friday basically said, we got to take you to the doc in a box or something, because if he had not done that, I would not have gotten out of bed. It was so like, it hurt to see, my head hurt. It hurt to talk. I would have just succumbed to whatever it was, because it was coming so fast.
Wow.
So he got me up. We went out. I laid in the back of the car, got to the doc in a box, lay down, couldn't even sit up, went back there. They gave me a migraine tonic and basically said, if you're not doing better the next day, go to the emergency room. Was not doing better. So I remember I slept in a separate bedroom that night. And as soon as I heard my husband, my former husband, wake up, I went down there and just said, hey, we got to go. So it was amazing that morning when we went to the emergency room, it was quiet. So in less than an hour, diagnosed very easily through a CAT scan, I had 1 lesion in my lung and 3 in my brain.
Whoa.
Right. And again, just sitting there within a week, like
Yeah.
how quickly were these things in my brain? They were going massively. And I'm guessing if I hadn't done anything within a couple more days, I would have crossed over, would have perished. Uh,
Wow.
so right then and there, they basically said, "Hey, it's looking like stage 4 cancer, lung cancer. Do you smoke?" I heard this many times. Do you smoke? Do you smoke? No. Uh, so at that point, my former husband got on the phone with my parents and basically said, "Well, this is what we're up against. We're going to go straight to the hospital." So right in that moment, life changed. So it wasn't about going home and getting, packing or anything. It's like, go straight to the hospital. And again, your life in that moment is going to potentially change dramatically. And I remember when they talked about that diagnosis, and they filled me with painkillers. So suddenly I was just more conscious. I was so excited because there was a part of me going, "Oh my gosh, this all makes sense. There is something going on." Yeah. And I don't quite feel connected to this cancer diagnosis. And I've worked so long on not getting upset about something that I don't know if it's true or whatever. So I, I I'm just going to be okay. And thank goodness they pumped me with this stuff. So I'm feeling good right now. Okay. In the ambulance we go and off we go. Oh, this is going to be a really interesting adventure. And seriously, Sarah, I'm not saying that tritely. I took videos during the time that I was in really good spirits, which most people would not be. What does this mean? And I got to fight this. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, this is coming to me spiritually because I need this in my life. So let's go. And also knowing, I think 5% of people who are diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, they die within 5 years. So I also knew that, okay, I might be leaving my kids, but I know I'll be there and I'll get to see them. So also for me with the work I do, it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be dead. And they're not, oh no, I'm going to tap them on the shoulder and, you know, yeah, I'll be good. And at the time, everything with my family was good. So it wasn't like, oh, there are all these unresolved relationship issues. It was the relationship with myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. So get to the hospital. This is really interesting too. So I won't say there's so many interesting paths to this, but this was cool. So got to the hospital. They pumped me full of steroids. So I felt no pain, which is great. They couldn't do a biopsy on my lung to prove that I had stage 4 lung cancer for 7 more days. Okay. So you sit there going, well, highly probable that this is it, but we don't know for sure. And so I had okay. Oh, this is so neat too. So I was going to my high school reunion that weekend. So these are people in Georgia that I don't talk to on a regular basis, but I was supposed to be there. So all of a sudden they knew I wasn't coming. And it being very Southern and religious, I got put on prayer list out the wazoo. I don't talk about this a lot with everything. So there, okay, because thought is energy. It's so great. There was one point where I just feel like Jesus was there. It was just so amazing. So that week was probably the best week of my life
Wow.
to sit there and just enjoy my friends and enjoy family. And people would come in with sad faces, and I'd be like, "Come on, let's give you a hug." So anyway, they couldn't do the biopsy because the lesion was too close to my heart. So they're like, "Okay, we're going to bring you in and we're going to do brain surgery." Okay, I the only surgery I've had up until this point was getting wisdom teeth removed.
Hmm.
I'm not a big Western medicine fan at all, and I probably would have chosen a different tactic than this,
Hmm.
except it came on so quickly, and most of my family's all into Western medicine and emergency, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So even when I was at the hospital, I had my crystals and had people come in and do Reiki and all that kind of good stuff. Uh, so anyway, okay, now because there's nothing left to do, essentially we need to go in and we feel that this craniotomy, because of the 3 lesions in your brain, which by the way, it wasn't my brain, and everything I work with is about mind and mindfulness and meditation, which I thought that was quite ironic as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's one lesion that seems like we can get to. However, when you get out of the surgery, you might not be able to walk again. You might not be able to talk. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We're thinking everything's going to be okay, but we don't know. Okay, will you sign these papers basically saying it's okay?
To make you a
And
vegetable,
yeah,
possibly.
right. And knowing at this point these lesions were going, so something, there needed to be something done. So anyway, wheeled off, had the first craniotomy done. I had to. Yet, I'm gonna get to the NDE.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyway, that night, I'm gonna get dramatic for a second. That
Yes.
night, after having the surgery done in my head, and it was the only night I didn't have someone in the hospital with me because I was in the hospital for a month and a half. Because you learn things. You learn that, and I was supposed to be there by myself this time, which was great, but lots of things happen at night. So having someone there is glorious. So I woke up. Probably it was in like around 1 or 2 o'clock at night. I just had the surgery in my head. I groggy. Okay, where am I? Okay, so I'm in the ICU, and there's some crazy things that can happen in the ICU because that's where emergencies come in. Or after an emergency, you go into that. Okay, nothing ever happened to me. I was in the ICU probably 3 times, except that night. So I'm waking up. My door to my room is open, and suddenly someone comes in who's just somehow fallen off a ladder or something, quadriplegic, throwing up. Horrible, horrible. Then there were nurses laughing. So I was just sitting there listening to the heaven and the hell of all of it. I couldn't find a little thing to call a nurse and I couldn't talk. And it was just like, and I was all weighed down with all these wires. Like it was just all I could do was sit there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is a different kind of NDE than a lot of people. I didn't go outside of my body, but it had to be this way. So I'm sitting there conscious, listening to all this, and I got a tap on my shoulder. Okay, hey, God, right here. Okay, I'm gonna give you a choice right here, Eden. And it was so loving, and it wasn't like, oh my God, this golden light is coming down, and here's people that are just because if I had been in that, chances are high I would have taken that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, God said, hey, this is life. I mean, this is earth. And now I completely understand that even more. And not knowing about the Great Awakening at this time, this is life. It is heaven and hell. And it's right in front of your face. Now, you can either move forward or you can let go right in this moment and leave. All you have to do, it's not going to be painful. It's not going to be, it's going to be great. All you have to do is close your eyes and you can come. And I knew that God and all glorious. Like there's a part of me sitting there going, oh my, I know how fantastic it is. And I'm hearing all this.
Great.
Right. And I'm sitting here hearing,
it's going to be great.
Right. And I'm hearing all this shit right in front of my face. Okay. And then God goes, okay, let me tell you this one thing. Again, you can choose whatever you want. And I had someone on my show recently. We were talking about NDEs too, because I had heard recently too, that when the light comes to you, it's not always God, it's Satan and everything. Mm-hmm. Okay. And she expressed also, which was in my NDE, if you happen to have one, it's so neutral. There's not Uncle Bob going, come over, cross over. Like it's just you decide, I got you, I love you.
Yeah.
Okay. And God basically said, okay, here. Come here, Uncle Bob.
On, little
come on over, little honey. All right. So God said, all right, you just had this craniotomy done. Okay. And just like the doctor said, I cannot tell you what your life is going to look like. Good luck with that. Yet I can tell you, if you decide to stay, you are going to learn so much more than if you did this or come to me or come over this way or whatever. Yet your choice, you decide. I'm going to give you everything. You make the decision. So it wasn't that long because there's, I guess this part, and Sarah, I'm sure you can relate, that goes, okay, well, if I'm going to learn more with this, I'm just just going to do it because God's got my back. So even if it is hard or whatever, I know I can do it. Oh, well, you might not be able to walk again. You might, who knows what you're going to, you may be paraplegic when you come out of this. Are you sure you want to? Yeah. Okay. If God said this is going to be the highest is good for me, okay, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. So I decided within that moment, I'm going to eat when the next day comes because food is life. And that was just the click of it. So I don't know how long it was after that. A nurse came into my room. I barely could talk. And I just said, hey, can you get my husband to come? And usually he's Johnny on the spot. Like he would be there in a moment. Probably 2 hours, him coming. And when he came in, I was just like, okay, food. Let's get, I don't know how I said it. I think there was a menu. I pointed to a menu. He brought me some coffee. And I remember when I took those first couple of bites, I was like, okay, well, here we are. Here we are. We're doing this thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. And turns out, all right, here's putting it all in a nutshell. If I can put it in a nutshell. When the doctor came back in, I'm gonna look off for a minute as I remember some of this stuff. I think that day he came back in and basically said, you do not have stage 4 lung cancer. We got the biopsy out. We don't know what it is, but we're thinking it's some sort of infection. 3 other diagnoses came through until we could get this nailed down. I think there was a scientific paper done on me. And let me put this in there, Sarah. I could have had stage 4 lung cancer initially. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Because we create, we change the stories. And then cancer is also about having challenges with yourself and loving yourself. And at that point, you know, again, there's a lot of subconscious stuff too. I love myself. I'm good. All right. So anyway, changed up. It was not that. It turns out to be Nocardia Beijingensis, which is a mouthful. Basically, that there was this bacteria that I breathed and went to my lung, and the only person where it crossed the blood-brain barrier and went into my brain. So highly unlikely that any of this would happen. Yet, what came from that too is I wanted to go into a place to rehabilitate before going home. Went into that place, did not rehabilitate. The lesions in my head started to grow again. Went into another craniotomy, emergency surgery. Oh my gosh. The first one, they didn't really have to shave my head. They put, these little link magnets in and delicately shaved. This one was an emergency. Okay, so this is what I agreed to go into this. Again, it wasn't, God said, hey, you're going to learn a lot. Everything's going to be okay. Right. So in that one, the doctor basically said, we do not know what's going to happen, if she's going to come out of this or not. So my husband and my mom were like, oh my gosh, decided to do it. Everything went okay. Yet there was one point when I was at the hospital 7 days where I had brain fluid coming out of my brain. You cannot move. Thank goodness I have done meditation for so long. It was okay to sit there and not move. Okay. And as you do that, miraculously too, your body, without having movement, I'm a thin person anyway, depletes. I got down to 80 pounds. Wow. Yeah. Whittled away within just a week of time. And I exercise, ate well, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay. So finally, after many ventures, went home. 3 hours of IVs, literally took 2 full years to rehabilitate. I ended up giving or not having my studio anymore. And part of that was necessary because, God and Spirit had tried to tell me this beforehand, but I wasn't listening. I was spending so much time on marketing and so much time on the other people that worked with me that basically you need to let this go because you're getting away from why you're here. And you're helping all these other people and you're doing all this other stuff, paying bills and stuff that doesn't really matter. So, and it was like giving up a baby essentially, because I thought my worth and my ego was having people work with me and selling products and all that. Mm-hmm. And I tried another place because we had to move, which is 30 minutes away from a house, and not realizing after you have brain surgery, it is really hard to drive. But I'm going to drive. And so letting all of that go, which was really challenging at the time, but then really realizing I started having sessions back at home again. And because of that, so easy. All I have to do is schedule it on my phone or in my calendar, and you come to me. And that's what I needed to be doing. Plus the fact I needed to go through this too, heavy duty physical issue, so I could understand when clients came to me and they had things happen to them. I could go, well, heck yeah, I had this happen to me. I can totally relate to that. Oh my God, I had two brain surgeries. Oh my gosh. And it's to even tell you that is weird in a sense, because I have a massive hair back here, so you can't see them. Yet the only thing, well, you can feel them too. Yeah, the only thing that I've had after all of this was my two parts of my peripheral vision are right now they're black holes. So my optic nerve was nipped. So I'm working on correcting that, because it's so funny that I can see so much with my eyes closed, that seeing in this human world, there are challenges there, which that makes sense for me too, because I love this world outside of here. And it is challenging to be a human being. So really working on that as well. All right. So let me add one more piece, because this is important. When I first got home, having physical therapy, so people would come out to my house. Okay, let me tell you some of the things. So Eden, I want you to repeat back to me these three things: cow, pig, chicken. I mean, we're talking about Eden. I'm going to show you a watch, and you tell me where the big hand and the little hand is pointing. 12 o'clock. I mean, that's the kind of basic. I could not walk for a while. It was a total body experience. And let me add this too. So my company is called Just Be. Another reason I needed to go through this was to just be. For months, I could not cook, clean, work, do anything but sit in a chair. So I had to fully embrace just being. And I did.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh
Wow.
gosh, that was a lot there. Okay, any questions for me or anything? I think I covered kind of the main points of it.
I had like so much like coming, like, yeah, like, but I don't want you to stop. Like, I was like that, like, I love, like, it just, I mean, people need, I love stories like this because people need to know, like, it wasn't like God came to you and it was all, and this is what my show's about, like rainbows and butterflies and shiny crystals all the time.
Right.
Even when you have something, there's still work that needs to be done. There's still a path. And like, we forget that. And when you're in the trenches of it, it gets really hard. And you want to, I call it off planeting now. That's my joke word, is like, it's not dying. It's not, it's just, do I want to off planet right now? Like,
I love that. Can I use that?
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Love it.
It's not even suicide anymore. It's off planeting. Like, is it time to off planet? And the fact that, like, I know for me that when I'm actually given the choice, I will probably stick with the harder thing. But if you don't give me a choice and you force me into the hard thing, there's the resistance until I get to decide. And so, like, God gave you a choice, right? And it's like, you knew what this, if you were to off planet, you know that this avenue is going to be okay. So you might as well just go back to this, because what are you going to do over here? Go do that? Like, great, it's easy, right? But it's always waiting for you. There's always the choice to do that. So just go do this and see what this has in store, even if you were a vegetable. Right? Because it's going to end anyway.
Right. And who knows what being a vegetable is actually like.
Right.
Until you're in it. Like, I imagine, like my special needs daughter, like, her IQ basically says she's just a couple points over being retarded. She is not retarded. She is a vaster spiritual being than any of us are, because she doesn't have those blocks. Yet society sees her as disabled, as limited. She isn't. So if I'm a vegetable, what could my spiritual capacity be within that?
Mm-hmm.
It's, and if I hadn't chosen to stick this out, I would have no idea about the Great Awakening and this big thing that is happening on Earth. And that experience has prepared me for this too.
Yeah.
It's just so friggin' magical. So
and
magical.
like you wrote this all, I mean, this is why I love soul contract work, because it's like you wrote all of this into it. I was actually listening. I don't listen to a ton of NDs on everything I see on YouTube. I like wait for it to tell me. Like I don't just really like go finding it. I just like scroll through. I look at some stuff and it's like, no, 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 no. Okay, maybe. Or like some days it's like not even today. I don't even watch anything. But this one NDE came through, and this girl like broke her contract of having chronic illness, and through the through her near-death experience and where she went and what she learned and the dimensions she went to and traveled, which sounded fucking amazing. I'll actually send it to you because it just sounded so magical.
Yeah, mine's not so magical. Yeah,
no,
please
yours
do.
Is still magical though, because there's
in
still magic in that. But hers was that she needed to go back and like she could break this contract, and she realized what this contract was of having these chronic illness. And then she came back and didn't have her chronic illness anymore. But in her soul contract, they showed her, you're going to break your contract it's in the contract. Breaking the contract was in the contract. Like,
there you go.
I was telling my friend the other day, I'm like, so what, like, how much free will do we even really have? Like, you were talking to God and he's saying you could basically break the contract right now and you can off planet. But was that written in your contract that you're going to have this conversation with God to give the choice point?
So I had a QHHT. I hope I'm saying that right. I was like, is it QHHT?
It's QHHT, yep.
Okay. So I had one appointment where I saw myself as a man, and at the same time, two experiences with him were happening simultaneously. That was really neat to be a part of that, because the woman I was working with, she's like, is it going on how is this happening? I'm like, it's going on at the same time. So it was interesting too with this dude. The one dude was abducted. I mean, and horrible things, I'm using that word again. And then the other guy was with a wife and kids in the same apartment. It was like Chicago or something. So it was really neat for me to experience that.
That's like real quantum timeline stuff, like parallel things happening at the exact, like the threads of the quantum, you know, like things are playing out like in one thread that played out that way. And it's like choose your own adventure.
I know.
Like I love those books. Did you ever read those when you were young?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Maybe because how old are you right now? I'm
55.
Okay. I'm 44. So we're 11 years apart. So maybe it just like, you were a little too old for it but yeah, we had choose your own adventure books. So you read them, and then at a certain point it'd be like, okay, if you want to, I don't remember how it was all laid out, but if you want to do this, jump to page 43. And if you want to do this, jump to page 100, right? So then you go to page 100 and then read the story, but then you could read the story all over again and choose your own adventure. So then it's like, that's like really like quantum, like in the sense of like the quantum field is like, is if you make this decision, it's going to put you on this path. It's to make this decision. So I tell people like with tarot reading, like I love tarot cards, but to ever be a tarot reader, I don't want to, because at any moment if your tarot cards are laying out this way and the path is laid out for you that way, like you could stay on that path, or you could choose your own adventure because you see what the timeline of that path is. You can make one tweak, and then that whole reading is kind of obsolete. So I use tarot cards as more of like an external reflection of where I'm at in the moment and things that might be in my blind spot that I'm not seeing, rather than it's going to predict where I'm going.
Very nice. I also, with my clients, I feel the energy of where something is heading in the moment. So I'm very clear with that too. Not, this is going to happen to you in a year, because again, things can change in a heartbeat. So I'm like, this is where things are aligning right at this moment. You can change things. Who knows where things are going to go? But yet where the energy is right now, unless you change it, unless something happens, this is where it's heading. So let me give you some guidance in that. knowing you can change all of it, that
Mm-hmm.
none of it's set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yet blind spots, it's important for you to know this right now. Boop, boop,
Mm-hmm.
boop.
But
And
then on the bigger thing, it's like,
yes.
but then is it like, then it's like, you hear that, like that girl's story. It's like, but it was written that you were gonna
Right.
So like, is like, it's a question that I like, it's like the chicken or the egg in a sense, like, is free will really free will? Or it's like a constant ponder with a group of friends of mine. Like when we come back to it, like, is free will really free will? Or is it still part of, I don't know,
This.
like,
Right.
or were you always going to choose that? Was that path always going to be let out, but you were always going to choose to
And maybe
detour
I
right
chose
there?
both. Maybe there
Yeah.
was one that I didn't choose it. Because Sarah, for me, anytime I get an answer to something, I get 5 more questions or more than that. So it is so exciting that the universe, that God, that source, that we just continue to grow continuously. There are answers to things, there are not answers to other things. It is just, if we can stay lighthearted and excited through all of this, I mean, that's pretty much the key, because it's all a stage. It's just school. It doesn't matter, yet it does. So how can we continue to be childlike with it and continue to learn and continue to be excited even through hard stuff? And I'm not saying that I'm also, oh, like this. I mean, there's been some crap and some major shit that I've been through. When you lose or shed a marriage that you've been in for 25 years and then realize that, not knowing that his whole family is going to disappear, and that your kids, you don't know what's going to happen with your kids. And I had a good basis of what was going to happen. And then not knowing how your family is going to react. And then in the midst of all of this, you decide, I'm seeing things, y'all aren't seeing the things that I'm seeing, but I'm still going to talk about them. Well, you're weird. I can't be your friend anymore. I can't be your client anymore. So all of it in one fell swoop, changing. And then I'm not going to wear a mask when all society basically says you're wrong, you're doing things bad, you're you, like having the bravery essentially to step into all of that and to essentially go against the narrative and go against society. That crap was hard.
It's hard. I was and still love this person so much, and
Yeah.
was intertwined with someone who I deeply, like, I think I've loved him more than probably anyone else at this point. And everything really unraveled like post pandemic. And when we had the kind of like, I don't want to call it break. It's
Ooh,
a
I'm feeling
very,
it. Ooh.
it was a very complicated situation, and I'm not going to go into details, but when we had like the breakup-esque parting of ways, he just laid into me about being healthy, about being the path, like, especially because I started speaking out more about, what's happening in society. And I know his coreness is he really needs to be accepted. And that's his like core, like wounding in it, if you want to call it wounding or whatever it is. And I'm a person who's always been very independent, and I like at a job, I'll be the one to speak up for the group, right? I'm the one to like stand in, even when I don't feel powerful, as best I can, to be the voice, right? Or to question in the things. And I know that challenged him. I know this now, years, like a few years later, when I reflect and look back and have like had to dissect it, challenged his core, right? Challenged his like need for this acceptance of the group, and then loving me, but me going against all of society, his family, like what his family's saying, what his friends are saying, what the jobs are saying. And the way he finally like blew up on me, and like now I can see it, but not in the moment. And he's like, and you're a conspiracy theorist. But it wasn't that, like, yeah, I am. Okay. But it wasn't that. It was the way that it was being delivered. It was the way I've never, I think in my life, have like been sliced open in that conversation and like by anyone ever. It was
Can
the
I add
most,
this?
yeah,
When you were talking about it, I wasn't feeling it so much in your heart. I was feeling it in your gut. So, okay.
yeah.
So never
I mean, I
slice
think it
like
was like a
that.
whole body thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
but there's a lot right here.
I've never, it was like, and that he was coming at me with all this judgment. And he's like, you've changed since COVID and everyone thinks you've changed, and he's like
Oh,
screaming at me.
oh,
And I had like, because I loved him so
oh,
fucking much, right?
shucks.
Like and I
Right.
still do. I still love him so fucking much.
Ah,
And I haven't talked to him in a really long time. And to want someone to love you so fucking much as you love them, and then they're just looking at you like you're the fucking devil,
mhm,
and you have to stay in your truth.
uh-huh.
And like, I'm that to go into that in my head, I will just start crying out of no. I'm getting teary because to then to have to like keep fucking walking forward when you just then you want to run back and be accepting, like, just kidding, I'll believe everything you be, jab me up, because I don't want to lose you and I don't want you to like think of me like I don't know how to, you get what I'm getting at though, like
Yes. Okay. When
fucking
you
was
talked
that
about
painful, yeah.
that one girl that you were before, I think before we started recording, how similar. So I'm going to throw
Yeah.
this in there too. I had a similar experience. I'm not going to talk about who it was with. Um, it wasn't a love relationship like that, but essentially I was in a chair, someone that I'm very close to, a family member, pointing a finger at me saying, using the word fucking to, you are a fucking idiot. And the same thing, having to sit there calmly, where a part of me could have just walked away, ended the relationship, yet I sat in it. And it was so hard to be judged that way, to be for his view of me, knowing it's completely different. And even though he's standing over me, being sitting in my power and basically stating, you do not know me, you don't have control over me, you don't define me. So I can relate to that. Like, oh my gosh. And just imagining you being in that moment in a love relationship too. Oh my gosh. And after that moment, were y'all done? What happened after?
um well, we had worked together during that time, so I'd
Oh,
had to still
shucks.
see him at work, and then
Oh.
I had to just after it was just like a month, 2 months after that like parting of being intimate with each other,
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave the job. And I'm like and he started doing things that like I know it was really painful. That was painful to have things being done in front of me to like I know only him could have played the part to get me out of a certain space in life,
Right. Yeah.
but it didn't make it easier. And
Right.
it all was, the whole thing was like really fucking painful. And then to go to the job thinking that everyone here thinks poorly of me and that I've changed so much since COVID. And I did, we all did, right? But I'm not on the side that everyone's on. So like I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like my family. So like I had to like go, I was being kicked out. I just felt like I was being kicked out of the nest and he was the one kicking me out. And like
Man.
it was really fucked up. And then yeah, to continue to walk and stand in your power. And
Mm-hmm.
like I questioned myself for a minute. I'm like, am I wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong? And if it hadn't been for the community of us like-minded missions to find each other, like I was not okay. Like I thought maybe I just shit off planet because like what the fuck is happening? And then as I'm seeing people wake up, and even as of recent, like people are starting, and like I said, the respect has changed of other people. I was like, I wasn't wrong. I was never wrong. I was never fucking wrong. Like, yay me. I've never been wrong, you know? Like, and I've stayed true, even in one of the most painful
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like my parents could have done that to me and it wouldn't have hit me as deep as that it hit with that person. But to like, what a testament, like, of I really am committed to all of this. And I can't
Yes.
stop, even when the person I love more than anything
Mhm.
on the planet is fucking wanting to burn me at the stake. I won't
Mhm.
stop.
Okay, I'm going to high five you through the camera.
Yeah.
This is great strength to do this, and you talking about it, it's a testament to
And
that.
you
That
coming back and you choosing to stay without knowing, but knowing that, like, high five to you too, you know, like you
thanks.
didn't take your choice point out. And that's why I love these stories, because it's like, you came without knowing there's a mission. You knew there was a mission and you knew that you have such strong purpose and it wasn't time for you to go. And like, yeah, I really, when we do this work and we're working with others to help them walk through the shit, and this is why I love
Hmm.
having the podcast and I love talking about this, is
Hmm.
like being talking the things that people aren't saying or giving hope. Like your story today, like what the girlfriend and I that had the conversations like
Yeah.
today earlier, and we've just gone through the muck of it this like the last week, right? In some other areas, and like just hearing your story, even though I'm not with stage 4 lung cancer with lesions in the hospital, I'm like, okay, I get what I'm doing again. Like, thank you. Like, thank you for sitting with me today. Like, thank you,
Oh,
universe, for aligning this when it aligned, because like, that's like, okay, we're still going. We're going. We got this. Like, even if it's shit, even if we're like lying there and can't do, like, there's
you just do
there's
it.
still more, there's still more to do, and
Hmm.
it's not that bad, even when we get too 3D humany and we
Hmm.
think it's so bad. It's not that bad, but some days it just gets fucking clouded, you
Hmm.
know.
And you had talked about too, we are at the point where, for those of us that are really working, that, and it's been happening for at least the past 3 years, heavy duty, that all the stuff is coming up to clear out, and we're still in that process. So it's getting easier. I don't know about you, and faster in terms of the stuff that I have to deal with right now, which is
Mm-hmm.
so friggin' fabulous. And there's so much more light as well. It's just, things are just churning, and I'll say churning and burning right now, yet we're still in the middle of it. So to tell your listeners and your viewers, hang in there.
Mm-hmm.
I went through this period of extreme body pain for a while, and that's lifted also. Feeling highly energetic. So it wasn't an energy thing where my energy was low, but just like going to work out, and I couldn't even lift up tiny little weights because my elbows, like every joint was hurting. It was probably for 2 to 3 months. And I knew about the ascension, that, oh, you might have headaches and you might feel, but when I was in it for the moment, I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? And then I'm like, when it finished, I'm like, oh, that's what that was. Come
Mm-hmm.
on, you know all about this anyway. But it does, it just overtakes. And
Mm-hmm.
at some points I had these percussion machine, I'd do it on my body, got massages, you know, apple cider vinegar, Epsom salts baths. I mean, there was one night where I spent 3 hours on my body, and when I was done, I felt maybe 5% better. I mean, crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, it's gone now. It will not happen
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So hang in there, people.
Hang in there.
We got this.
Mm-hmm.
We got it. And Sarah and I got it too.
Yeah.
And we're holding the space for you as well,
Mm-hmm.
because we are strong bitches.
We are strong bitches. We are strong bitches, that is for sure.
Okay, but that's a
Yes.
negative word against females.
No.
We are strong, beautiful, divine, feminine women. And
Yes.
feminine energy right now is so the key. So
Mhm.
there we go.
There we go. All right.
Ah,
Anything
oh,
you want to, are we
oh,
good? Do you want to say any final, or do we just, do we just want to let it rest right
oh,
here? Cause like,
yeah. I don't, and I can talk, but I don't think I can say anything else.
yeah. Well, thank you everyone for watching,
Oh,
listening. Thank you, Eden,
thank you.
for joining me on here, even through our
Thank you.
little wobbly start.
Okay.
It's just been one of those weeks. It's like, okay, okay, okay. Like a lot of energy is moving. So
Yes.
yeah. And we'll talk with you all again soon.
All right. Thank you so much. So fun.
Bye.
Okay.